Chapter 7. The next day, Vanessa took the train back to London for the holidays. She slept through the journey but woke as the train drew into Paddington and passengers with luggage began bumping their way down the aisles. She waited for the authors to get off before retrieving her 2 cases, dragging them down the steps and over the gap onto the platform where her parents were waiting. They looked older and shorter than Vanessa remembered, each wearing tan raincoats, which was the first time Vanessa had known them wear matching clothing. Father's was open at the front, Mother's buttoned to the chin. Mother's hands were clasped around her handbag as though grasping a horse's reins. Fingers curled neatly around leather, hands drawn back, close to the waist. While Father kept his arms folded over his chest in order to keep glancing at his watch, eager to get home. Traffic was slow around Paddington, but then it was a quick run through Brixton and Herne Hill into leafy Dulwich. "It's lovely to be back," Vanessa said, pretending, for Father's sake, not to have noticed Mother's nervous chatter or the smell of whiskey on her breath. She knelt to remove the day's letters from the entrance so that Mother wouldn't trip, remembering having crouched by front doors as a child in eager anticipation of Father's letters. Usually he wrote on flimsy blue aerograms, but occasionally he remembered to send a white envelope with a row of colorful West African stamps that she saved for her stamp collection. Juma and Sarata sauntered in, greeting Vanessa as though she had been gone for just a few hours. They stepped nonchalantly between her feet, tickling her calves with the tips of their tails, and arching their backs to better rub against her ankles. Soon, the gentle patter of Mother's slippered feet summoned them down the stairs to the kitchen, and Vanessa followed down the carpeted steps, where the 2 felines waited in expectation of milk or a tin of something fishy. "I've made your favorite chicken pie," Mother said, standing by the oven, hands clasped in front of her tweed skirt. "Vanessa," Father called from the lounge upstairs, "I'll take your suitcase to your room, darling." It was just the 3 of them in the large, 3-story Georgian house, but already it felt crowded to Vanessa, crowded and strangely cold. She glanced at her mother standing by the oven, whirling her wedding band round and round like an anxious schoolgirl. Above the thick gold band sat a slim ring pulled up to the knuckle to give room for the latter's rotation. This was her engagement ring, a large opal encircled by sapphires. Vanessa remembered touching the stones as a child, turning the ring this way and that to catch the many shafts of color, and, though Mother used to complain that opals brought bad luck, Vanessa never remembered her taking it off except when making pastry. "These are nice," Vanessa remarked, noticing some roses on the kitchen table. "I've made you a cake." Mother pointed to a linen tea cloth covering her work. "Lemon pound," she added, turning away to fill the kettle. The sound of running water drowned Vanessa's thank you, as well as the whine of cats. "Silly things," Vanessa muttered as she fetched them milk and dribbled it onto their saucers. She tried holding them back with a foot, but some of the milk landed on their faces and they shook their tiny heads, scattering milk droplets across the linoleum. Vanessa smiled as she placed the empty milk bottle on the work surface and watched for a moment before going to her room. Her suitcase was waiting next to her bed where Piglet, Tigger and Padding _ Ton Bear sat propped up against the headboard, just as she had left them. On her dressing table, Mother or the housekeeper had arranged pink carnations that smelt of nutmeg. Vanessa smiled again and walked to the window, overlooking Bellamy Boys' School playing fields. Scattered across the fields, patches of frosty Grass resembling clumps of silver tinsel remained untouched by the winter's sun. Home, the headmaster's house in Dulwich. This at least had been home prior to Oxford, but there had been so many houses before. First they had lived in Nigeria, and then she and Mum had come back to England while Father remained abroad. It had been better, Vanessa mused, when it was just she and Mother in the days before the drinking started. She turned from the garden and ran her fingers along the edges of the floral curtains. This was a young girl's bedroom. And she missed the room in Oxford with its serious books, newspapers, and ash trays. But then she remembered Teo's Christmas present and took it out of her bag to play. Shully-a-bop, shully-a-bop, she sang whirling to the music of Sarah Vaughan. She had promised not to open it before Christmas, but she couldn't resist these sorts of things, and what a lovely present. Now she wanted to find him something, and she remembered the photographer's shop on Upper Street. She would get him a print of Louis Armstrong or Sonny Rollins, or, failing that, she could always look for a first edition of The House at Pooh Corner. Teo had introduced her to some of his favorite writers, so it might be nice to do there. Same, provided he didn't think Pooh was too childish. Vanessa was still thinking of presents when she heard her mother calling and hurried downstairs. They were sitting at the dining table when Father peered suspiciously at his food and announced that the pie looked soggy in the middle. "Mum, it's fine," Vanessa insisted, trying to stop her from scooping up their servings and running back to the kitchen, but it was too late. "So what does Oxford think of Harold Wilson?" Father asked. "I don't know," Vanessa shrugged. Father was stabbing peas with his fork and popping them into his mouth in a way that reminded her of a greedy child. She hated the fact that her father so easily irritated her. Had it been anyone else, she would have spoken eagerly of the new Prime Minister, but she knew that Father scorned Wilson and the Labour Party. In any case, why couldn't he think of "There's so much more than Wilson, Daddy. There's racism in the Midlands, apartheid in South Africa, American civil rights, that's what Oxford talks." "Is everything okay?" Mother reappeared with a burnt-looking pie. "Yes, Mum." Vanessa nodded, thinking that if her father didn't like his pie, this time she might scream, but he didn't say anything, and Mother started talking about preparations for the Christmas party, wanting to know who Vanessa was inviting. "Better not be anti-apartheid people," Father grumbled. "What do you mean?" Vanessa asked, sharply. "Because I've invited my mining friends." "You what?" Vanessa looked to her mother for support. "Oh, Nessa," Mother pleaded. "But they're horrible men, those mining idiots. They own all the bloody mines in South Africa and make packets of money out of their black workers. How can you invite them? Do you know how many blacks die in the Kimberley mines every month?" "Vanessa, I think you're being silly," Father snapped. "It's not nearly as bad as the press are saying, so don't be taken and just be. 'Cause you're filled with the rush of Oxford. And, frankly, if you look at the mess in the rest of Africa, South Africa is doing very well by comparison. Yes, thanks to all the blacks doing the work and being bloody exploited." Vanessa let her fork drop noisily to the plate, and pushed her chair back. "Look. I'm sorry, Mum, I can't take this." She ran upstairs and slammed her door shut before flinging the stuffed toys off her bed and jamming the pillow over her head. How dare he? She had always known of Father's white South African friends, but how could he invite them to a family party? What would Teo and Geeta think? "Oh, sorry, here are my father's racist South African chums. You don't mind, do you?" She sat up, wiped the tears from her face and took a deep breath. She considered for a moment, telling her friends not to come, but realized this would be what her father would want, and she wasn't going to do that. In any case, it was Mother she wanted to introduce to her friends, not Father. But then what if Mother got drunk? Bloody hell. She moaned, banging her head repeatedly against the pillow.